All right, devotees, welcome to day 42 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. And today we are starting chapter 26, which is titled A Description of the Hellish Planets. First of all, let us chant our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Dejatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, so devotees, chapter 26 of the 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, a description of the hellish planets. There are 40 verses here, and we've divided them into 8 sections. First section is just verse 1. Maharaj Parikshit asks why the living entities are put in different material situations. Second section is just verse 2. Shukadev Goswami answers that it happens in terms of the modes. Third section is just verse 3. Shukadev Goswami begins describing the hellish planets. And section 4, it's just verse 4. Parikshit asks where they are. Section 5, it's just verse 5. They're situated between the 3 worlds and the Garbhatak ocean. Then section 6, which is just verse 6, the role of Yamaraj is described. Then section 7, from verse 7 to verse 37, so that's a really big section. Shukadev Goswami lists the hellish planets and describes each one of them. Section 8, verse 38 to verse 40. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam, one advances towards liberation. Yes, okay, so here we go, devotees. Section 1, verse 1. Maharaj Parikshit asks why living entities are put in different material situations. Yes, it's really such an important question. So, verse 1, King Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, my dear sir, why are the living entities put into different material situations? Kindly explain this to me. So there is a short purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, the hellish planets are slightly above the Garbhatak ocean. So this chapter describes how all the sinful persons go to the hellish planets and how they're punished there by Yamaraj's assistance. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, different individuals with different bodily features enjoy or suffer various reactions according to their past deeds. So the second section, which is just verse 2, Shukadev Goswami answers that it happens in terms of the modes. We broke it up like this because these are just such important questions. Just such important questions, and these extremely important answers are being given, so we divided it up like this, so greater focus can be given to the particular verses in question. So verse 2, the great sage Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, in this material world there are three kinds of activities. Those in the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Because all people are influenced by the three modes of material nature, the results of their activities are also divided into three. One who acts in the mode of goodness is religious and happy. One who acts in passion achieves mixed misery and happiness. And one who acts under the influence of ignorance is always unhappy and lives like an animal." Because of the varying degrees to which the living entities are influenced by the different modes of nature, their destinations are also of different varieties. So there's no purport here. We go on to the third section, which is just verse 3, which we call Shukadev Goswami begins describing the hellish planets. Verse 3, just by executing various pious activities, one achieves different positions in heavenly life. By acting impiously, one achieves different positions in hellish life. Those who are activated by the material mode of ignorance engage in impious activities, and according to the extent of their ignorance, they're placed in different grades of hellish life. If one acts in the mode of ignorance because of madness, his resulting misery is the least severe. One who acts impiously but knows the distinction between pious and impious activities is placed in a hell of intermediate severity. And for one who acts impiously and ignorantly because of atheism, the resultant hellish life is the worst. Because of ignorance, every living entity has been carried by various desires into thousands of different hellish planets since time immemorial. I shall try to describe them as far as possible. So, fourth section. So that's an introduction. Oh, we can see what's coming up. And it's really, it's going to be quite extreme. So, okay, the fourth section, fourth verse, Parikshit asks where they are. So verse 4, King Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, "My dear Lord, are the hellish regions outside the universe, within the covering of the universe, or in different places on this planet?" That's an interesting question, isn't it? Yes, very interesting. So on we go to the fifth section, which is verse 5. They are situated between the three worlds and the Garbadak ocean. So the great sage Shukadev Goswami answered, all the hellish planets are situated in the intermediate space between the three worlds and the Garbadak ocean. They lie on the southern side of the universe, beneath Bhumandala and slightly above the water of the Garbadak ocean. Pitriloka is also located in this region between the Garbadak ocean and the lower planetary systems. All the residents of Pitriloka, headed by Agnishvata, meditate in great samadhi on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and always wish their families well. So, short purport by Srila Prabhupada. I'll just read the whole thing. As previously explained, below our planetary system are 7 lower planetary systems, the lowest of which is called Patala Loka. Beneath Patala Loka are other planets known as Naraka Loka, or the hellish planets. At the bottom of the universe lies the Garbhodak Ocean. Therefore, the hellish planets lie between Patala Loka and the Garbhodak Ocean. Yes, so on to the 6th section, verse 6. The role of Yamaraj is explained. The role of Yamaraj is described. So verse 6, the king of the Pitas, means like the forefathers. The king of the Pitas is Yamaraj, the very powerful son of the sun god. He resides in Pitriloka with his personal assistants, and while abiding by the rules and regulations set down by the Supreme Lord, has his agents, the Yamadutas, bring all the sinful men to him immediately upon their death. After bringing them within his jurisdiction, he properly judges them according to their specific sinful activities and sends them to one of the many hellish planets for suitable punishments. Okay, so purport. Some people think Yamaraj is just a figment of some overzealously religious type of foolish mentality, but Prabhupada says Yamaraj is not fictitious. He has an abode, Pitriloka. He's the king there. And agnostics, atheists, but agnostics, Prabhupada says, may not believe in hell, but Shukadeva Goswami confirms the existence of the Naraka planets, there between the Garbhodak Ocean and Patala Loka. So the Lord appoints Yamaraj to particularly, the way you could put it is, to see that the humans don't break his rules. Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse. I'll just read the translation. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So it means we have to understand karma, that's action, vikarma, forbidden action, and akarma, non-action, inaction, and then act accordingly. So the conditioned souls, they're here to gratify their senses, and they're allowed to do that under the rules. But if they break the rules, they get judged and punished by Yamaraj. So he takes them to the hellish planets, chastises them to reform them to Krishna consciousness. But by the influence of Maya, in so many cases, they continue in ignorance. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, thus, in spite of repeated punishment by Yamaraj, they do not come to their senses, but continue to live within the material condition, committing sinful activities again and again. So, okay, now, devotees, we've got a very long section from verse 7 to verse 37. It's the 7th section verse 7 to verse 37, so it's actually 31 verses. And here Shukadev Goswami lists the hellish planets and describes each one. So we have to go through this in detail, as we do. We'll read the verses, starting with verse 7. And, well, we'll see how far we get today. We won't finish today, in which case we'll just carry on tomorrow. So verse 7, some authorities say that there's a total of 21 hellish planets, and some say 28. My dear king, I shall outline all of them according to their names, forms, and symptoms. He's going to outline all of them because, material life, people in material life, it is inevitable that sooner or later all of them will go through different of the hellish planets. Perhaps we all have been through all of them at certain times. And it can be a real impetus to us to become serious, to be serious devotees and get out of Maya and go back to Godhead. So, right, the names of the different hells are as follows. Tamisra, Under Tamisra, Rorava, Maharorava, Kumbhipaka, Kalasutra, Asi Patravan, Sukramukha, Andakupa, Krimi Bhojana, Sadamsha, Tapta Surmi, Vajrakantaka, Shalmali, Vajrakantaka Shalmali, Vaitarani, Puyoda, Pranaroda, Vishasana, Lala Bhaksha, Saramayadana, Avici, Ayapana, Kshara Kardama, Rakshogana Bhojana, Shula Prota, Danda Shuka, Avata Nirodhana, Paryavartana, and Suchi Mukha. All these planets are meant for punishing the living entities. So, fasten your seatbelts, devotees, I tell you what. Get ready, because here we come. Here we go. Verse 8. My dear king, a person who appropriates another's legitimate wife, children, or money is arrested at the time of death by the fierce Yamadutas, who bind him with the rope of time and forcibly throw him into the hellish planet known as Tamisra. These are in order as we read the list there in the previous verse. On this very dark planet, the sinful man is chastised by the Yamadutas, who beat and rebuke him. He is starved, and he is given no water to drink. Thus, the wrathful assistants of Yamaraj cause him severe suffering, and sometimes he faints from their chastisement. The destination of a person who slyly cheats another man and enjoys his wife and children is the hell known as Under Tamisra. There his condition is exactly like that of a tree being chopped at its roots. Even before reaching Under Tamisra, the sinful living being is subjected to various extreme miseries. These afflictions are so severe that he loses his intelligence and sight. It is for this reason that learned sages call this hell Under Tamisra, because Anda means blind. Yeah, Anta means blind. Verse 10. And you can see there's a similarity between Tamisra and Under Tamisra. because they both involve a person stealing another person's wife, children, and so on like that. Yeah. Right, so verse 10, a person who accepts his own body as his self works very hard day and night for money to maintain his own body and the bodies of his wife and children. While working to maintain himself and his family, he may commit violence against other living entities. Such a person is forced to give up his body and his family at the time of death, when he suffers the reaction for his envy of other creatures by being thrown into the hell called Vaibhava. Yes, he commits violence against other living entities. Okay, verse 11. In this life, an envious person commits violent acts against many living entities. Therefore, after his death, when he is taken to hell by Yamaraj, those living entities who were hurt by him appear as animals called rurus to inflict very severe pain upon him. Learned scholars call this hell Vaibhava. Not generally seen in this world, the ruru is more envious than a snake. Verse 12. Punishment in the hell called Vaibhava is compulsory for a person who maintains his own body by hurting others. In this hell, ruru animals known as kravyada torment him and eat his flesh. So this is verse 11, Vaibhava. Now in verse 12, Vaibhava. And you can see the sinful activities are similar. Very similar. And the punishment is very similar, or anyway, very similar at least. Verse 13, for the maintenance of their bodies and the satisfaction of their tongues, cruel persons cook poor animals and birds alive. Such persons are condemned even by man-eaters. Hare Krishna, even by Rakshasas. In their next lives, they are carried by the Yamadutas to the hell known as Kumbhipaka, where they are cooked in boiling oil. Verse 14. The killer of a Brahmin is put into the hell known as Kala Sutra, which has a circumference of 80,000 miles and which is made entirely of copper, heated from below by fire and from above by the scorching sun. The copper surface of this planet is extremely hot. Thus, the murderer of a Brahmin suffers from being burned both internally and externally. Internally, he is burning with hunger and thirst, and externally he is burning from the scorching heat of the sun and the fire beneath the copper surface. Therefore he sometimes lies down, sometimes sits, sometimes stands up, and sometimes runs here and there. He must suffer in this way for as many thousands of years as there are hairs on the body of an animal. And devotees, just think about it. I mean, next time you see an animal, just have a look and see. You can't count, of course, how many hairs, but just see, there's really a lot of hairs on the body of an animal. So verse 15. If a person deviates from the path of the Vedas in the absence of an emergency, the servants of Yamaraj put him into the hell called Asi Patravana, where they beat him with whips, when he runs hither and thither, fleeing from the extreme pain. On all sides he runs into palm trees with leaves like sharpened swords. Thus injured all over his body and fainting at every step, he cries out, "Oh, what shall I do now? How shall I be saved?" This is how one suffers who deviates from the accepted religious principles. Verse 16. In his next life, a sinful king or governmental representative who punishes an innocent person or who inflicts corporal punishment upon a Brahmin is taken by the Yamadutas to the hell named Sukrala Mukha, where the most powerful assistants of Yamaraj crush him, exactly as one crushes sugar cane to squeeze out the juice. So, there's a little more in that verse, but we can just note, corporal punishment upon a Brahmin means some punishment of like whipping or beating the body. Corporal means the body of a person. So the sinful living entity cries very pitiably and faints, just like an innocent man undergoing punishments. This is the result of punishing a faultless person. Verse 17. By the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, low-grade living beings like bugs and mosquitoes suck the blood of human beings and other animals. Such insignificant creatures are unaware that their bites are painful to the human being. However, first-class human beings, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, are developed in consciousness, and therefore they know how painful it is to be killed. A human being endowed with knowledge certainly commits sin if he kills or torments insignificant creatures who have no discrimination. The Supreme Lord punishes such a man by putting him into the hell known as Anta Kupa, where he is attacked by all the birds and beasts, reptiles, mosquitoes, lice, worms, flies, and any other creatures he tormented during his life. They attack him from all sides, robbing him of the pleasure of sleep. Unable to rest, he constantly wanders about in the darkness. Thus, in Andakupa, his suffering is just like that of a creature in the lower species. Verse 18. A person is considered no better than a crow if after receiving some food he does not divide it among guests, old men and children, but simply eats it himself, or if he eats it without performing the 5 kinds of sacrifice. After death he is put into the most abominable hell, known as Creamy Bhojana. In that hell is a lake 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles wide, and filled with worms. He becomes a worm in that lake and feeds on the other worms there, who also feed on him. Unless he atones for his actions before his death, such a sinful man remains in the hellish lake of Creamy Bhojana for as many years as there are yojanas in the width of the lake. Well, the verse says that the lake is 100,000 yojanas wide. So he stays in that hellish lake for 100,000 years. Verse 19, my dear king, a person who, in the absence of an emergency, robs a Brahmin, or indeed anyone else, of his gems and gold, is put into a hell known as Sadamsha. There his skin is torn and separated by red-hot iron balls and tongs. In this way his entire body is cut to pieces. Verse 20, a man or woman who indulges in sexual intercourse with an unworthy member of the opposite sex is punished after death by the assistance of Yamaraj in the hell known as Tapta Surmi. There such men and women are beaten with whips. The man is forced to embrace a red-hot iron form of a woman, and the woman is forced to embrace a similar form of a man. Such is the punishment for illicit sex. Verse 21, a person who indulges in sex indiscriminately, even with animals, is taken after death to the hell known as Vajrakantaka Shalmali. In this hell there is a silk cotton tree full of thorns as strong as thunderbolts. The agents of Yamaraj hang the sinful man on that tree and pull him down forcibly so that the thorns very severely tear his body. Verse 22, a person who is born into a responsible family, such as a Kshatriya, a member of royalty or a government servant, but who neglects to execute his prescribed duties according to religious principles, and who thus becomes degraded, falls down at the time of death into the river of hell, known as Vaitarani. This river, which is a moat surrounding hell, is full of ferocious aquatic animals. When a sinful man is thrown into the river Vaitarani, the aquatic animals there immediately began to eat him. But because of his extremely sinful life, he does not leave his body. He constantly remembers his sinful activities and suffers terribly in that river, which is full of stool, urine, pus, blood, hair, nails, bones, marrow, flesh, and fat. Hare Krishna. I must say, it's extreme. It is just really extreme. Verse 23, the shameless husbands of low-born Sudra women live exactly like animals, and therefore they have no good behavior, cleanliness, or regulated life. After death, such persons are thrown into the hell named Puyoda, where they are put into an ocean filled with pus, stool, urine, mucus, saliva, and similar things. Sudras who could not improve themselves fall into that ocean and are forced to eat those disgusting things. Verse 24, if in this life a man of the higher classes, Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, is very fond of taking his pet dogs, mules, or asses into the forest to hunt and kill animals unnecessarily, he is placed after death into the hell known as Prana-rodha. There the assistants of Yamaraj make him their targets and pierce him with arrows. Yes. Verse 25, a person who in this life is proud of his eminent position and who heedlessly sacrifices animals simply for material prestige, is put into the hell called Vishasana after death. There, the assistants of Yamaraj kill him after giving him unlimited pain. So, there are some people in sort of military history or in history who are their specialist torturers. And the specialty, the expertise is to make a person suffer just so incredibly that they're just about to die, but they don't die. Yeah. Then after they recover a little bit, then some more super extreme suffering. And it just goes on and on. So verse 26. If a foolish member of the twice-born classes, Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, forces his wife to drink his semen out of a lusty desire to keep her under control, he is put after death into the hell known as Lala Bhaksha. There he is thrown into a flowing river of semen, which he is forced to drink. Verse 27. In this world, some persons are professional plunderers who set fire to others' houses or administer poison to them. Also, members of the royalty or government officials sometimes plunder mercantile men by forcing them to pay income tax and by other methods. Not just some income tax, but some massive income tax. After death, such demons are put into the hell known as Sara Mayadana. On that planet there are 720 dogs with teeth as strong as thunderbolts. Under the orders of the agents of Yamaraj, these dogs voraciously devour such sinful people. Verse 28, a person who in this life bears false witness or lies while transacting business or giving charity is severely punished after death by the agents of Yamaraj. Such a sinful man is taken to the top of a mountain 800 miles high and thrown head first into the hell known as Avichamat. This hell has no shelter and is made of strong stone, resembling the waves of water. There is no water there, however, and thus it is called Avichimat, waterless. Although the sinful man is repeatedly thrown from the mountain and his body broken to tiny pieces, he still does not die, but continuously suffers chastisement. Verse 29. Any Brahmin or Brahmin's wife who drinks liquor is taken by the agents of Yamaraj to the hell known as Ayapana. This hell also awaits any Kshatriya, Vaishya, or person under a vow who in illusion drinks Soma Rasa. In Ayapana, the agents of Yamaraj stand on their chests and pour hot melted iron into their mouths. Verse 30. A low-born and abominable person who in this life becomes falsely proud, thinking, I am great, and who thus fails to show proper respect to one more elevated than he by birth, austerity, education, behavior, caste, or spiritual order, is like a dead man, even in this lifetime, and after death he is thrown head first into the hell known as Kshara Kardama. There he must suffer great tribulation at the hands of the agents of Yamaraj. Verse 31, there are men and women in this world who sacrifice human beings to Bhairava or Bhadrakali and then eat their victims' flesh. Those who perform such sacrifices are taken after death to the abode of Yamaraj, where their victims, having taken the form of Rakshasas, cut them to pieces with sharpened swords. Just as in this world the man-eaters drank their victims' blood, dancing and singing in jubilation, their victims now enjoy drinking the blood of the sacrifices and celebrating in the same way. Verse 32, in this life, some people give shelter to animals and birds that come to them for protection in the village or forest, and after making them believe that they will be protected, such people pierce them with lances or threads and play with them like toys, giving them great pain. After death, such people are brought by the assistance of Yamaraj to the hell known as Shula Prota, where their bodies are pierced with sharp, needle-like lances. They suffer from hunger and thirst, and sharp-beaked birds such as vultures and herons come at them from all sides to tear at their bodies. Tortured and suffering, they can then remember the sinful activities they committed in the past. Verse 33, those who in this life are like envious serpents, always angry and giving pain to other living entities, fall after death into the hell known as Dandashuka. My dear king, in this hell there are serpents with 5 or 7 hoods. These serpents eat such sinful persons, just as snakes eat mice. Verse 34, those who in this life confine other living entities in dark wells, granaries, or mountain caves are put after death into the hell known as Avatar Nirodhana. There they themselves are pushed into dark wells, where poisonous fumes and smoke suffocate them, and they suffer very severely. Verse 35. A householder who receives guests or visitors with cruel glances as if to burn them to ashes is put into the hell called Paryavartana, where he is gazed at by hard-eyed vultures, herons, crows, and similar birds, which suddenly swoop down and pluck out his eyes with great force. Verse 36. One who in this world or this life is very proud of his wealth, always thinks, I am so rich, who can equal me? His vision is twisted, and he's always afraid that someone will take his wealth. Indeed, he even suspects his superiors. His face and heart dry up at the thought of losing his wealth, and therefore he always looks like a wretched fiend. He is not in any way able to obtain actual happiness, and he does not know what it is to be free from anxiety. Because of the sinful things he does to earn money, augment his wealth, and protect it, he is put into the hell called Suchimukha, where the officials of Yamaraj punish him by stitching thread through his entire body like weavers manufacturing cloth. Verse 37, it's the last verse in this particular section. Verse 37, my dear King Parikshit, in the province of Yamaraj, There are hundreds and thousands of hellish planets. The impious people I've mentioned, and also those I have not mentioned, must all enter these various planets according to the degree of their impiety. Those who are pious, however, enter other planetary systems, namely the planets of the demigods. Nevertheless, both the pious and impious are again brought to earth after the results of their pious or impious acts are exhausted. So we'll finish here for today, and tomorrow and next time we'll begin by going through this whole section again, going through all the descriptions of all the hellish planets. Yeah, but we'll start from the beginning. So we'll stop now. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.